Church.
All right, welcome back. It's a Thursday edition of Liquid Lunch. I am thankfully joined today by my dear friend, Zen Sams. She's a model, actress, super mom, stunt lady, taekwondo specialist, and among other things, philanthropist, but a great friend. Thank you for joining me again, my darling.
So happy to be here.
And yes, today, in light of all the tumult, we started the show with a moment of silence for everyone that was hurt, injured, killed, and mentally terrorized by yesterday's events. And, we send our prayers to all of those that we start healing. We just had Pastor Brian on talking about, faith and freedom and how, the family needs to all keep the faith no matter what.
No matter what.
And, we're lucky enough to have Reverend Dee Hawkins Haigler back with us again. She was a Democratic strategist. She was a state rep in the state of Georgia, candidate for Secretary of State at one point. I think I'd rather have her than this Rapsenberger guy.
That's right.
Reverend Dee, thank you so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Congratulations on your party's wins, across the board wins, president, the two runoffs in Georgia, and I wouldn't necessarily call it a mandate, but it was a very hard-fought, slim victory. And now I think our country, unfortunately, is as divided as it's ever been. And the reason we're trying to talk about faith is because 70% of Americans identify as some sort of Christian, and I think that's the main constituency that matters and cannot let itself be divided.
That's correct. Hello. So thank you for having me today. It's good to see both of you. So I am first of all, I am elated about the elections in Georgia, but I am very saddened by the way things have turned in this country as of late. America does have a history of many things, racism, slavery, violence, but America changed and it turned and it got to the place where I thought we were on the right path. And now what we witnessed yesterday was the culmination of a lot of unnecessary hate speech, talking back towards each other in ways that was not civil. And so it's very hard to contain something once you've already unleashed it. And so that's why I think that as Christians, we need to learn how to as Christians, just as decent human beings, we got to learn how to talk to each other even when we disagree, because you can disagree without being disagreeable. There is a way to do that. And we have got to learn that in the country, or else we're all going to fall.
Reverend, thank you so much for that. You're absolutely right. And what played out yesterday, and we saw it unfold right before our eyes, and JT, John Tobacco, was on Capitol Hill and he was witnessing this. It was a peaceful rally up until a certain point, and then we had a few sour apples, many sour apples, that this turned into something that was a very dark day in history. But from your perspective and from where you're at, you have flat out said that you're happy where things are at in terms of Congress, right? President-elect Joe Biden is going to be sworn in on January 20th. There's a lot of strides for the Democrats that have been made, but it came at a huge price. There were 4 lives lost. There was talk about President Trump maybe or maybe not gaslighting the situation. From your perspective, what could be learned from this day, and do you think that democracy has a chance at surviving?
Well, you know what? I have faith in America. America has not fully realized its real creed as of yet, and that's that all men and women are created equal, endowed by their creator. But I believe that America could be great. And in order to be great, we have to call out the things that are not so great. And sometimes we have a hard time talking about race and privilege in this country, but hard conversations are sometimes needed. And so even the conversations around yesterday, I don't have a problem with people protesting. I think protesting is just as American. It's American as apple pie. I do believe in protest. I mean, the civil rights movement was born out of protest.
Absolutely.
The voting rights movement born out of protest.
Women's rights.
It is when protesters, those who go the extra mile, because if most of the protests of the civil rights, voting rights, they were peaceful protests, nonviolent protests. But when you try to overrun the federal government buildings, especially the U.S. Capitol, where the people's business is done. There is no excuse for that, and we cannot cover it up.
No.
But let's talk about why were people assembling yesterday? To say that there was an election that was not full of voter fraud. And the fact that the president led that rally, knowing that the certification was going on yesterday, fueled the flames. And he did gaslight the people. And we can't act like that did not happen. It most certainly did happen. And as a result of it, we saw what happened. People climbing over the wall like they're in some type of James Bond or SWAT movie.
Yes.
It was breaking out windows, acting like, thugs and hooligans. I've never seen anything like that.
Well, let's not say never. Let's not say never, Pastor. I mean, unfortunately, we saw some.
I've never seen anything like that. Not on the federal government building. I've seen people incite violence. I've never seen that type of demagoguery and defiling the government building like that. Not ever have I seen that.
All right. Well, look, as we all know, mostly or pretty much everything that happens is God's plan, right? And fortunately, only one person was killed, and thankfully there wasn't more.
No, correction. There was 4 people total killed.
Four people killed, and she should have never died. That's horrible. She gave her life because
exactly. Look, Reverend, I agree with you. I agree with you in this instance.
Why would you even go in a federal
I agree with you in this instance. This got out of hand. Trump did gaslight. He may, contrary to maybe what you are believing, but he has done an incredible. He's made milestones in Congress, and he has done great things for the country, but he's also divided the country. And I think last night and yesterday played out to where we saw that divisiveness, and we can't let that continue. And regardless of Trump leaving office and Joe Biden taking over, that divisiveness is still here.
Yeah.
And the Trump supporters are still going to continue to voice their opinion. So with what advice can you give as a reverend to the Trump supporters who are still human beings with a voice that exercise their First Amendment, maybe not in the best way possible, because yesterday a tragic accident did happen, but it was a peaceful rally up until that point. Really quickly, how much could you give? How much advice can you give based on this?
I think people need to go within themselves and ask, why would you conduct yourself like that? Because, even though you just said things are not you, but things are done in God's will, people also have free will and choice to make good decisions. And those were terrible decisions made on yesterday. And they were terrible. And so when brothers and sisters learn how to reason together, we have always had a majority two-party system, and people win and lose all the time.
All the time.
Sometimes the Democrats would say there's voter fraud. Sometimes the Republicans would say there's voter fraud. But no one has ever conducted themselves like that. Democrats were very upset when Al Gore lost against George Bush. But you did not see Democrats take to the streets and try to overrun buildings, or Al Gore have a rally, even though he was a sitting vice president, to say, oh my goodness, let's go and try to decertify the election.
You're right.
Al Gore was too much of a nerd. Hey, Pastor.
He knows.
Reverend, you are so right. Thank you for your opinion here. You're correct.
I said Al Gore was too much of a nerd to get it. He probably couldn't get a rally together. I'm joking. But we wouldn't have come, because one thing you can say about Democrats overall. Now I thought we could say this about Republicans too, who used to claim so much law and order. Is no one, Democrat or Republican, should conduct themselves in a manner like that. It was something out of a movie. It was too sensationalized. It was the most crazy, absurd thing I have ever seen. And so,
Dee, the world is laughing at us. Yeah. The world is laughing at us.
And other stations trying to dial it back. But it's very hard to dial something back when you have created a monster. It's very hard when you have unleashed it. It's very hard to pull it back. And so we have to see. And what Trump supporters need to understand, as well as Biden supporters, that this is one United States of America. And I do not. It's really saddening to see what is happening in America today.
It is.
We have got to get this back together.
Well, you know what I think, Pastor, and that's why I'm happy we had the show loaded up today with different faith leaders like yourself. I really think that the foundational elements of why America was founded was pursuit of religious freedom. Many of the Puritans and the Pilgrims and everyone that came here was to escape, overreach and tyranny and determining their political freedoms. And that's why most of this country is Christian. That's why our money says, "In God we trust." And
in God we trust.
I think we got to go back to that and
Reverend
unite as Christians, and hopefully the rest of the non-Christians, they're other faithful types of people. Maybe they'll join with us in kind of being a country again instead of a bunch of little republics that hate each other.
Amen.
Thank you so much, Reverend Dee Hawkins Haigler. Thank you so much. Stay safe down there in the Peach State.
In the Peach State.
With
a great peachy shirt.
With the peach shirt on top of it. You're looking fine.
Yes, the Peach State.
You look beautiful.
The peach shirt in the blue state.
Oh my goodness, the peach. Oh, there you go.
All right, Pastor D, thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, all you out there, stay right there. Don't go anywhere.
But share the stream.
We're going to wrap up the show right after this.